Howdy folks, it's chilly outside. That means it's sweater weather. And you know what we need for sweater weather? Some cozy carvings. Let me show you how to make them. So here's our lineup, folks. So we have these ornaments available in 3 different sizes, and as you can see, there's 3 different designs. So we have a mitten, a sweater, and a stocking. As you can see, there's stocking, sweater, and a mitten. And here's the mitten for the largest size. And of course, they come in a variety of sizes. This one right here is 1.5 inches wide, so all these right here are 1.5 inches wide. These are the 2-inch size, so 2 inch is wide. And of course the largest one are 3 inches wide. Frankly, what I do is I just set the stencil on the piece of wood, I scribe the tallest line, and then I take it to the bandsaw or a handsaw and I cut it off right there. And then I don't really have to worry about what the exact measurements are. I just worry about drawing it. So one more thing that's worth noting is that these are available as a bundle. So if you buy the 1.5 inch version, you're getting all 3 of these. Just if you get the 2 inch version, you get all 3 of these. And likewise for the 3 inch version. None of these are available individually, they are as a bundle. Today, we are going to carve a 2 inch stocking. Okay, so to get started, we're going to get our piece of wood that's 2 inches wide, and it's roughly 1/4 inch, 3/8 of an inch thick. I get my stencil, I have a lip up here, so I can easily locate it right there and set it onto my piece of wood. Then I just trace away. Okay, and there's our design. Now it's also worth noting that I use a mechanical pencil. This is a Kuru Toga, 0.5 millimeters thick. Recently we've had a lot of folks saying that they can't fit their pencil into these holes. So these holes are 1 millimeter wide, which means that a 0.5 millimeter lead is perfect for this size. Even if you use a 0.9, it should still fit in there, but the thinner the better. Okay, all right folks, so if you really wanted to get a leg up on these, you would take this to a bandsaw and remove all this empty space over here and over here, but really there's not too much to handle, and frankly a knife is pretty good. I would say that this is probably one of the problem spaces right here. Not so much on this design, the other designs that have a lot of work near the end grain, that could be a little bit problematic for a knife. So let me show you what I mean. So right here is where the knife is going to tell you if it's having trouble or not. But I think it's doing okay. Okay, so that's pretty good over here. Now all we're going to do is carve right up to that line. That's our whole goal, at least initially. Notice that I'm using my thumb as much as possible to pull that knife across. Maybe trying to take off more than I can chew there. And don't worry if you don't get it right to that line. We're usually, as humans, very cautious about coming up to a line. And I'll tell you that it's okay to cut over the line. In fact, you're going to round it over. And even if you just get slightly close to the line, it'll come out great. So there you see. This guy right here, take him down just a little bit more. Perfect. Alright, let's work on this side. Okay, that's pretty good right there. Now let's do the bottom side of the stocking. I would say that this is probably the trickiest part of this because you're having to cut at the end grain and you're trying to get as close as possible to that line, but it's a downhill battle, I guess. This is one of those instances that you're definitely going to want to strop after you're done with that end grain. Or sharpen it. In fact, I could see some white streaks being left from the knife, so that means that, yeah, I definitely need a little bit of tune-up on this knife right now. Okay, so just finish giving it that general shape that you want, because that's kind of what you're going to end up with from now on. Okay, I think that looks pretty good to me. Excellent. Now we can move on to the next step. Okay, so now comes the V-tool. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to outline some of these lines in the middle. So start off with this one that separates the cuff from the actual stocking part, or the sock section, however you want to label it. Then I'm going to do these, the toes, and then the heel. And how deep you go is really up to you. Mind you, I'm not going a whole quarter of an inch deep. I'm not going all the way to the other side, I'm just doing enough to kind of get a little bit of, so I can actually see the distinction between there. Okay, so now I'm going to start by rounding off all the corners. And as you see, I left those lines there. I'm not completely convinced that I want to do those lines. You know what? Let's go ahead and do those lines. So they're there. Why not do them? So from here, and if you wanted to, you could continue those lines all the way up like I did in this one. I think this one we're going to try something a little bit different. Okay, so now I'm going to round over all the square corners on this, so starting like this. Now, how much you round it over is up to you, but as you can see, we're kind of getting erasing some of our V-tool lines, and that's perfectly fine. Right? Frankly, I also want to take my knife and scrub this surface. It might be better with like a number 3 gouge, something slightly less dumb, I guess, for lack of better words. But this is working effectively. Okay, so now I have a little bit more right here to flatten out so I can get all that rough surface off of there. Well, that's actually working pretty well. Surprise. Okay, So now I want to separate that cuff a little bit more from the sock. So I'm going to score that line some. I'm going to come back and do it one more time. Of course, watch your fingers on that exit. That's how I got myself. And now remember to use your opposite hand thumb to push that knife. When you get close enough, turn the knife and take it up to that stop cut. And just clean it up a little bit. If you have a number 3 gouge, this is probably the place to use it. Okay, and then, like the rest of it, I'm going to round over that cuff as well. I'm going to score that in a little bit deeper. I'm not entirely happy with it. There we go, now just clean that up a little bit, and we're golden. That part is tricky because you're essentially dealing with end grain. Okay, now I like to score these a little bit more and just give them a little bit of separation with your knife. There we go, like that. But be careful because you do need to pay attention to grain direction here. Right, this one's easy, the other side's probably going to give us a little bit of a challenge. So in this direction, you have to go downhill. See what I mean? Of course, now my fingers are kind of in the way. Great, now let's do the heel. Okay, and then these guys up here, just make them a little bit deeper. Okay, so if you did one side, flip it over and do the other side. And grain direction in this one can be a little tricky, so if it doesn't work, don't blame yourself, just kind of flip it over and try the other side. Like that. And there you have it, folks. That is a very simple stocking that you can carve in just a matter of minutes. And as you can see, they're available in plenty of sizes. So this guy is all painted up, and I'm really excited to paint this one. I'm also going to do a video on the sweater and on the mitten.